I stood in the middle of the warehouse, the smell of old wood mingling with a faint whiff of machine oil, the space stifling as if it wanted to swallow me whole. The machinery hummed steadily, like the heartbeat of a tireless machine. Denver was colder than usual today, the October chill seeping through my worn-out jacket, making me shiver slightly. At 35, I, Dexter Hale, was just an ordinary warehouse manager, counting crates day after day, checking invoices and returning to my small house with my two daughters, Emma and Lily. My life now was nothing but repetitive days, colorless and hopeless, ever since Lena, my wife, left forever more than a year ago. Her death was like a knife wound deep in my heart, leaving a void that could never be filled. I lived for the kids, for responsibility, but sometimes I wondered if I was truly living or just existing. That day I was jotting down figures, the ballpoint pen gliding over the paper as I tried to focus on the lifeless numbers. Suddenly a phone ring pierced the air, sharp and persistent, cutting through the warehouse's quiet. I frowned, thinking it was mine, but my pocket was empty. The ringing continued, as if urging me, demanding my attention. I stopped writing and stepped over the stacks of wooden crates following the sound. It was coming from a black bag lying carelessly on the chair, the bag belonging to Riker, my younger brother, who had forgotten it that morning when he stopped by the warehouse to borrow a few things. Riker, my 31-year-old brother, had always been the center of attention in the family. An insurance agent, eloquent and charming, always showing up in a crisp suit and a confident smile. He was favored by our parents from a young age, as if his light was enough to overshadow all my efforts. Riker was careless, always forgetting things everywhere, a wallet, a set of keys, and now an entire phone. I shook my head, telling myself I'd just take the phone out to silence it and then call him to come back for it. But when I unzipped the bag and picked up the sleek iPhone, my heart stopped. On the screen, Lena's face appeared clearly. Lena Hale, the wife who had left me forever. That face, deep brown eyes, a gentle smile like autumn sunlight, golden hair shimmering, like a cold blade slicing across my chest. I stood frozen, my hands trembling, the phone nearly slipping from my grasp. My breathing grew heavy, as if the air in the warehouse had suddenly thickened. Lena was dead. I had stood by her coffin, holding Emma and Lily, seeing her one last time before the earth covered her. So why was her face appearing on Riker's phone screen in an incoming call saved under the name Hazel? I stood there, paralyzed, as if time had stopped. For the past year I had tried to move on, even if just existing. After Lena left, I became quieter, more withdrawn, like a faint shadow in my own home. I buried myself in work, caring for the kids, trying not to let the pain consume me. But every night when Emma and Lily were asleep, I sat alone in the living room, staring into space, trying to recapture Lena's image in memories that were starting to fade. I never thought I'd see her again, at least not like this, on the screen of a stranger's phone. The ringing persisted, urging me to do something. I took a deep breath, trying to compose myself. Maybe it was just a mistake. Maybe Riker had used the wrong photo. But deep inside, a sense of unease began to smolder like a small ember burning quietly. I pressed the answer button, my voice dry as I spoke. "Hello?" On the other end was a woman's voice, soft but unfamiliar. "Riker? Where are you? I've called several times." I froze. This voice, it wasn't Lena. It was similar but not. Lena had a special way of enunciating, a slight huskiness that was seductive when she laughed. This voice was smoother, younger. And then, like a bolt of lightning, I realized it was Hazel, Lena's identical twin sister who was dating Riker. "Hazel, it's Dexter here," I said, my voice faltering as I tried to stay calm. "Riker left his phone at the warehouse." "Oh, Dexter." Hazel laughed, her voice light and carefree. "I'm sorry, I thought it was Riker. He's always forgetting things, right?" I nodded, even though she couldn't see. But my mind was stuck on the image on the screen. That wasn't Hazel. I knew it. Lena and Hazel were identical twins, alike as two drops of water, but I had lived with Lena for nearly 10 years. I knew every little detail on her body, the faint scar on her neck from when she fell off her bike as a child, the tiny mole by her left ear that she often hid with her hair. The image on the screen had both those marks. It was Lena, not Hazel. "Dexter, are you still there?" Hazel's voice pulled me back to reality. "Yeah, I'm here," I replied, trying to sound normal. "I'll tell Riker to come back for the phone." "You? How are you?" "I'm fine, thanks. How about you? How are the kids?" Hazel asked sincerely. But I couldn't focus on her words. My head was spinning with questions. Why had Riker set Lena's photo as the contact picture for Hazel? Was it just a silly mistake, or was there something I didn't know? I ended the call with a few polite remarks, but my hand still gripped the phone tightly. A bold and dangerous thought flashed through my mind. I looked down at the screen, now locked. Riker was always simple with things like passwords. I tried entering his birthday, August 15th, 1994. The screen lit up. As I suspected, he never changed his habits. I opened the photo gallery, not knowing what I was looking for, only that I needed answers. And then I saw them, the pictures I wished I had never seen. Lena, in the green dress I bought her for her 30th birthday, standing next to Riker. They were smiling hand in hand, eyes locked as if the world held only the two of them. Another photo, them sitting on a sofa in a coffee shop. Lena leaning her head on Riker's shoulder, her smile radiant. I scrolled through each one, each invisible knife stabbing my heart. Lena, my wife, the woman I loved more than life itself, had been with my brother, behind my back. I didn't know how long I stood there until hurried footsteps snapped me out of the nightmare. Riker appeared at the warehouse door, suit still crisp, confident smile as always. "Bro," I forgot my phone. "Thanks for holding on to it," he said, his voice casual as if nothing had happened. I looked at him, my hand still clutching the phone. "Riker," I said, my voice low and trembling. "Explain. Why is Lena's photo in your contacts under Hazel's name?" The smile on Riker's face froze just for a second, but I saw it clearly. He quickly regained his composure, laughing loudly. "Oh man, bro, what are you thinking? That's Hazel. They're identical twins. It's normal for them to look alike. You're overreacting." "Don't lie to me," I growled, stepping closer. "I know Lena. I know every detail about her. That's not Hazel. And I've seen the photos, Riker. You and Lena. Explain." Riker took a step back, his eyes flickering. You're paranoid, Dexter. Lena's gone. You think I could do something with my sister-in-law? Come on, give me the phone. I have to go." I held the phone tightly, unmoving. "You slept with my wife, didn't you?" I nearly shouted, my voice echoing in the empty warehouse. "You betrayed me, Riker." "Enough," Riker cut in, his voice ice cold. "You're tired from raising the kids alone, so now you're dumping it all on me, right? Don't go crazy over some old photos. Give me the phone, Dexter." He snatched the phone from my hand quick as a gust of wind and turned to walk away. I stood there motionless, watching Riker's back disappear behind the door. My heart pounded, a pain deeper than before, the pain of betrayal. Lena, the woman I loved more than myself, and Riker, the brother I had trusted, had stabbed me in the back together. I didn't know what to do next, but I knew one thing for sure. I would not let this fade into oblivion. Never. That night, I drove home from the warehouse. The familiar Denver road now stretched endlessly, every meter dragging out the pain in my heart. The sky was overcast, a light drizzle tapping softly on the windshield, but I felt nothing except the rage and agony boiling inside. Riker had left, taking with him the phone full of secrets, but those images, Lena leaning her head on his shoulder, her radiant smile meant for my brother, were burned into my mind, impossible to erase. When I got home, Emma and Lily were playing in the living room. The two little girls, 6 and 4 years old, with golden hair like their mothers, were building a small house out of Lego. "Daddy's home!" Emma squealed, running into my arms. I hugged her, forcing a smile, but it felt stiff. Lily tugged at my hand. "Play with me, Daddy." I nodded and sat on the floor, but my mind was elsewhere. I looked at my daughters and suddenly thought of Lena. She used to sit here laughing and playing with the kids, her warm voice filling the house. Now everything was just a memory, and that memory was being tainted by betrayal. That night, after putting the kids to bed, I sat alone in Lena's old study on the attic floor. The room remained untouched since the day she was alive. A small wooden desk, a worn armchair, and family photos hanging on the wall. I opened her laptop, something I hadn't touched since the funeral. The password was still our wedding date. The computer unlocked and I started digging, not knowing what I was looking for. Old emails, document files, photo folders. Then I found a hidden folder innocuously named Work. I clicked on it. Inside were dozens of photos of Lena with Riker. My heart clenched. I looked at each one, each word of affection she had written to my brother. Secret dates at suburban cafes, late nights at the office that I had once believed. I copied everything to a USB drive, my hands shaking, tears rolling down my cheeks without me realizing. I began re-examining the past. Memories I once thought normal now stood out with chilling clarity. I recalled last year's Christmas family gathering, just a few months before Lena died. Everyone was gathered at our parents' house, laughter filling the air. Riker, as always, was the center of attention. He told funny stories about insurance clients, his voice animated, gestures smooth. Everyone roared with laughter. My parents looked at him with proud eyes. I sat at the end of the table, smiling politely. But now, thinking back, every little detail was clear. Riker pulled out Lena's chair before sitting down, an unusually gallant move. "Let me help you, sis," he said, his voice sweet. Lena smiled, the radiant smile I once thought was only for me. She looked at Riker, eyes sparkling as if his stories were the most fascinating thing in the world. At the time, I thought it was just polite sibling-in-law behavior. Now it was evidence of betrayal. Then there were other times. Emma's birthday, Lena threw a party at home. Riker arrived late, carrying a bouquet of deep red roses. "For my beautiful sister-in-law," he said with a wink. Lena blushed, accepted the flowers, and gave him a quick hug. I stood there holding a glass of water, thinking it was just a friendly gesture. But now I saw the look they exchanged when they thought no one was watching. A lingering gaze, full of meaning, like a whispered conversation without words. Each small detail pieced together into a horrifying picture I didn't want to believe was real. The times Lena came home late, claiming company meetings. The secretive phone calls she took on the balcony. I once asked, "Who was that?" And she laughed it off. "Just an old friend, don't worry." I believed her because I loved her. How foolish and complacent I had been. The following days were hell. I still went to work, still smiled at the kids, but inside me raged a storm. Every time I thought of Riker, revulsion surged. The little brother I had protected since childhood, the one I always yielded to because he was the baby. Now I could no longer look at him the same way. Every smile of his was fake, every word a lie. Every night I couldn't sleep. I stayed up with the USB full of evidence, eyes stinging but my mind unnaturally alert. Every morning I drove Emma and Lily to school smiling at them, but that smile was only a shell. Inside I was smoldering ash. I needed answers, needed someone to confirm I wasn't going mad, and the only person who could help me now was Hazel. After 5 days of torment, 5 days of turning memories over and over, wondering if I was destroying myself, I called her. Hazel's voice on the phone was still light and carefree. "Dexter, what's wrong?" I arranged to meet her at a small cafe on the outskirts where few people passed. When I arrived, Hazel was already there, her golden hair in a ponytail, brown eyes identical to Lena's that made my heart seize. She smiled, but the smile quickly vanished when she saw my face. I need to ask you about Riker," I began, my voice hoarse. I placed the USB on the table and pushed it toward her. "Open it. Look and tell me what you know." Hazel frowned, plugged the USB into the laptop she had brought. Her face paled as the photos appeared, Riker and Lena hand in hand, embracing intimately. She scrolled through them, hands trembling. This is Lena. With Riker? Her voice broke, tears streaming down. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I looked at her, trying to stay calm. How long have you and Riker been dating? 3 months, Hazel whispered, wiping her tears. But there were strange things, Dexter. Sometimes he called me Lena. At first I thought it was because we look alike, a slip-up. But now... She paused, eyes frantic. Once he hugged me and whispered, Lena, I miss you so much. I pushed him away, asked what was wrong, and he laughed it off. Just a mistake, you look so much like her. I believed him, but now I'm not sure. She and Riker... Hazel burst into sobs, shoulders shaking. I placed a hand on her shoulder to comfort her, but I was breaking too. Hazel didn't know. She was a victim, just like me. That afternoon, I drove to my parents' old house 2 hours from Denver. The familiar road, the tall pines, but today everything felt heavy. The 2-story wooden house appeared, smoke curling from the chimney, the scent of baking drifting in the wind. My parents still lived there, as if nothing had changed. I parked, took a deep breath, and walked in feeling like I was entering a courtroom. Mom opened the door. Her smile faded the moment she saw my face. Dexter? You're here so suddenly? Dad stepped out from the living room, newspaper in hand. Come in, son, stay for dinner. Dinner unfolded in oppressive silence, broken only by the clink of cutlery against porcelain and Dad's slow chewing. Riker wasn't there, thankfully, because I wasn't sure I could restrain myself if I had to see his fake smile. The smell of roast meat and mashed potatoes filled the air, but I couldn't swallow a bite. My stomach twisted as if an invisible hand were squeezing it. I waited until Mom finished clearing, the last plate placed in the sink, the rush of water sounding like rain against the window. Dad settled back into his old armchair, black coffee in hand, eyes fixed on the evening paper. I took a deep breath, stood and walked into the living room. I need to talk about Riker and Lena, I said, my voice rough from sleeplessness and pent-up rage. Dad set his coffee cup on the oak table with a sharp clack. His hand trembled slightly, the liquid sloshing, a few dark drops staining the white tablecloth. Old story, Dexter. No point digging it up. His calm was terrifying. Mom came in from the kitchen, drying her hands on her floral apron, eyes averted. That's right, son. Lena's been gone a year. Why stir up the past? Her voice was cold, as if discussing the weather. I stood there, heart pounding. They knew. They had known all along. So it's true, I said, voice shaking with shock. You knew Riker slept with my wife. You knew he flirted with and cheated with his brother's wife. And you never said a word to me, never stopped that piece of trash? The moment I finished, Dad shot up, his armchair scraping back with a screech. His face flushed red, veins bulging on his forehead. How dare you speak of Riker like that? He's your brother. He jabbed a trembling finger at my face. You've lost your mind. Lena's been dead over a year, and now you drag up old dirt to blame your little brother? Mom chimed in, her eyes not remorseful, angry. Every man has his weak moments, she shrieked. You're partly to blame. If you knew how to keep your wife, this wouldn't have happened. I stood frozen as if slapped across the face. Keep my wife? You're saying I should have kept her after she slept with my brother? When did you find out? Before Lena died? While I was holding her coffin and crying? Dad stepped forward, grabbed my collar, yanked my face to his. His breath reeked of coffee and stale tobacco. Listen, Dexter. You're the eldest. You keep the family's honor. Riker has a future, a career. You want to tear the family apart over a woman? I shoved his hand away, stepped back. Honor? You call Riker betraying his brother a woman thing? You've always been like this. Riker can do no wrong. Childhood memories flooded back vividly. When I was 9, I broke Mom's favorite porcelain vase. She yelled at me all week, made me kneel in the freezing yard until my knees went numb. You're old enough to be careful, she screamed. But when Riker spilled a whole can of paint on the living room wall, Dad just chuckled. He's little, let it go. Be more careful next time, son. Now, after all these years, nothing had changed. Riker's guilt was plain, yet my parents still defended him. Riker didn't mean it, Mom said, voice lower but sharp as a blade. He just got carried away. Lena was the one who started it. Started it? I nearly laughed, but tears streamed down. Dad turned away, walked to the window, stared into the darkness. Enough. Go home. Don't come back if all you bring is pain. Mom added, voice ice cold. And don't make a scene. You'll embarrass us in front of everyone. I stood in the familiar living room that now felt alien. The second betrayal, this time by my own parents, crushing me. I turned, walked out, shoes heavy on the old wooden floor. Bitterness and humiliation flooded me. The door slammed behind me, the lock clicking like a final goodbye. I drove through the rainy night, tears blurring the windshield. From this day on, I could only rely on myself. After the tense confrontation with my parents, I drove home. The Denver sky was pitch black, rain pouring heavily, water cascading down the windshield as if trying to wash everything away. But the pain wouldn't. It clung to me like an unrelenting shadow. I parked in front of the small house, the streetlight casting a faint glow on the porch. Emma and Lily were at the neighbors. I had asked her to watch them because I didn't want the kids to see their father like this. I stepped inside, closed the door, and silence enveloped the space. The house was empty, cold, just like my heart. I collapsed onto the sofa, hands clutching my head. My mother's words echoed in my ears. If you knew how to keep your wife, this wouldn't have happened. Keep my wife? I had kept her. I had loved Lena with all my heart, stayed up all night when she was sick, worked overtime to provide for the family. And all I got in return was betrayal from the people closest to me. Riker, Lena, and now my parents. I felt more alone than ever, like an outcast in my own family. Unable to sit still, I stood and climbed to the attic, Lena's old study. I turned on the light. The dim yellow glow illuminated the cluttered documents. I began searching more thoroughly for any clue, anything to explain why my wife had betrayed me like this. I pulled open drawers, rifled through old files, tax papers, and then a thick brown envelope tucked in the deepest corner. I opened it, hands trembling slightly. Inside was a life insurance policy. Insured Dexter Hale. Amount $2 million. Beneficiary Lena Hale. My signature at the bottom. But I froze when I looked closer. The handwriting wasn't mine. It was similar but with unfamiliar loops, as if someone had tried to imitate it. I had never signed, never agreed to any policy beyond basic family health insurance. My heart pounded, cold sweat breaking out. What was this? Who did this? I sank to the floor, the policy slipping from my hand. Lena's image flashed in my mind, her gentle smile, her words of love. But now everything was stained black with doubt. I needed verification. Immediately. I grabbed my phone and called Miles, my childhood friend now working at the same insurance company as Riker. We had grown up together in the old neighborhood, shared youthful dreams. Miles was the only person I still trusted. Miles, I need your help, I said bluntly when he picked up, my voice hoarse from sleeplessness and stress. Dex, what's wrong with your voice? What happened? Miles sounded worried. I'm sending you a copy of an insurance policy. Check the internal records for me. It's in my name, but I never signed it. I photographed the policy and emailed it. Miles was silent for a moment, then his voice turned grave. Give me 5 minutes. I paced the room, heart drumming. Those 5 minutes felt like a lifetime. Finally, Miles called back. Dex, this policy was filed 3 weeks before Lena died. Broker, Riker Hale. Your signature. I'm not sure, but the system logged it as valid. You're positive you never signed? Positive, I whispered, voice shaking. Thanks, Miles. I hung up and slumped into the chair. 3 weeks before Lena died in that car accident. The accident police ruled as losing control on a slippery road. Now everything was starting to connect, but I needed more proof. I opened Lena's laptop again. I dug deeper and found an anonymous folder, password protected with Riker's birthday. Inside was a chain of emails from an unfamiliar account. Just the right timing and no one will suspect a thing. One email read, Once it's done, we'll have a fresh start. The money will last us a lifetime. Another, you handle the insurance. I'll figure out how to deal with Dexter. My heart stopped. This was a plan. Riker and Lena had plotted together to kill me for the insurance money. They intended to stage an accident, maybe a car crash or something similar, so Lena could collect $2 million. But the scheme never came to fruition because Lena died suddenly. The plan collapsed, and Riker, he just carried on as if nothing had happened. I was reeling, leaning back against the wall, breathing ragged. The little brother I had trusted, always yielded to since childhood, had planned to murder me. And Lena, the wife I cherished, who vowed to grow old with me, had been complicit. She hadn't just cheated. She wanted me gone for a fresh start with Riker. I clutched my head, tears streaming. For the first time in my life, I felt Lena's death was a blessing, a salvation for me. If she were still alive, I might be the one in the grave. The person in that coffin a year ago might not have been her, but me. I sat there until dawn, sunlight filtering through the attic window. The room was still silent, but a storm raged in my mind. I saved everything, the policy, the emails, Miles's notes. I wouldn't stop. The truth was horrifying, but I had to face it. For myself, for Emma and Lily, Riker would pay. I grabbed my phone and called Miles again. His voice was groggy when he answered at 6 in the morning. "Dex, are you kidding? It's only 6 a.m. What's so urgent?" "I need the full list of clients Riker is handling," I said bluntly, no beating around the bush. "All of them. Send it now." Miles paused for a second, then sighed. "Fine, but you have to keep this quiet. If they find out, I'm out of a job." I didn't respond, just waited. 10 minutes later, the email arrived. I opened the attachment, eyes scanning hundreds of names, and then I froze. Hazel Collins, file created 2 weeks ago. Beneficiary, Riker Hale. Insurance amount, $1.5 million. My hands shook so badly the mouse nearly slipped. Hazel, Lena's identical twin, the woman who had sobbed in the cafe when she learned the truth, was now caught in Riker's web. He was repeating the old plan, just swapping the target. Lena was dead, so now it was Hazel. Blood rushed to my head, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. If I didn't act, Hazel would be the next victim. I bolted out of the house without changing, still in an old t-shirt and jeans. My car tore down the highway, running red lights, weaving through morning traffic. Hazel lived in a quiet suburb, 30 minutes from my place. I screeched to a stop outside her small apartment and pounded on the door. Hazel opened it, eyes half closed, hair tousled. "Dexter? What's—" "Get inside," I cut her off, gently pushing her back in. I shut the door, locked it, and placed the USB on the table. "Open it. Look." Hazel sat down and plugged the USB into her laptop. Her face drained of color as the photos and emails appeared. This is Lena and Riker?" Her voice cracked. What is he planning to do to me?" "Have you signed any insurance policies recently?" I asked, my voice ice cold. Hazel nodded, tears streaming. "Last week, Riker said it was to secure our future. He told me if anything happened to me, he'd take care of our future kids." She buried her face in her hands. I was so stupid. I thought he loved me. I gripped her hand tightly. "Listen to me. Plan. He and Lena tried to kill me for the insurance money. Now it's you. But we'll stop him." Hazel looked up, eyes red but flashing with resolve. "What do you want me to do?" "Keep seeing Riker. Pretend to trust him, cooperate. Act like everything's normal. I'll give you a recording device. Record every conversation, texts, calls, everything." Hazel nodded, voice trembling but determined. "I'll do it. For Lena. For you. For myself." The following weeks were a covert war. Hazel sent me recordings every night. Riker's voice oozed sweetness through the speaker. "Baby, sign this policy too. I want to make sure you're protected." Then the manipulation. "If you don't trust me, then we really have nothing left." Hazel played her part perfectly. Voice shaky, feigning worry but steadfast. I sat in the study listening to each clip, heart aching. The deeper I dug, the more I uncovered. Miles sent another list. 3 other women in neighboring states, one in Wyoming, one in Utah, one in New Mexico. All had signed large policies with Riker as beneficiary. 2 had already met with accidents. One fell downstairs, one vanished on a hike. Police ruled them accidents, but now I knew. They were staged murders. Hazel and I began crafting a counterplan. We met secretly in a park at midnight, exchanging information. "Let Riker trap himself," I said. "We'll make him think everything's going smoothly, then spring the trap." Hazel nodded, eyes alight. This fight was no longer just between brothers. It was truth against lies, crime against redemption. I looked at Hazel, stronger than I'd ever imagined, and knew we would win. Riker would pay with his own greed. Every night I sat in front of the computer screen, eyes bloodshot but more alert than ever. I was no longer the patient older brother. I was the hunter, and Riker was the prey. After confirming he was targeting Hazel, I called Miles immediately. His voice was hoarse from lack of sleep when he answered at midnight. "Midnight, Dex. Haven't you let it go yet?" "No time," I said, voice cold as ice. "We're planning the counterattack now." Miles arrived at my house right away, bringing his laptop and a portable hard drive. We sat in the living room, the dim yellow desk lamp casting light on our tense faces. "I'll dig into the internal data," Miles said, fingers flying across the keyboard. "Client lists, commission transactions, irregular policies. Everything Riker touched in the last 3 years." I nodded. "I'll handle the outside, track his movements, appointments, habits." I had already bought a tiny GPS tracker and stuck it under Riker's car when he stopped by the house last week. My phone screen now showed his every move, from the insurance office to downtown bars, from Hazel's place to strange addresses in the suburbs. We also looped in Jake, an old acquaintance from the state investigative agency. Jake had played ball with me in high school and was now a police detective. "If you have solid evidence, I'll step in immediately," Jake said over the phone. "But keep it discreet. Don't let him suspect. Hazel was the perfect bait." I coached her like a professional actress. "Keep meeting Riker," I told her during a secret midnight rendezvous in the park. "Pretend to trust him, smile when needed, cry when needed, but record everything." I handed her a bracelet with a hidden microphone, high-tech gear borrowed from Jake. Hazel nodded, eyes red but burning with determination. "I'll do it. For Lena. For myself." The following weeks were a taut underground war. Miles sent me stacks of files every night. Lists of clients Riker had manipulated, suspicious commission transactions, hundreds of thousands of dollars flowing into his personal accounts. I shadowed Riker like a ghost. He left the office at 5 p.m., hit a downtown Denver bar, then drove to Hazel's. I sat in my car 2 blocks away, watching through binoculars, heart pounding as Riker hugged Hazel at the door. But Hazel performed flawlessly. She smiled, kissed him, but her hand clenched the recording bracelet. In their meetings, Riker gradually revealed his true nature. The first recording Hazel sent gave me chills. His voice dripped honey. "Baby, sign this policy too. Insurance means freedom. If anything happens to you, I'll have enough to take care of us." Then the hint. "There's a way to get rich quick, Hazel. Just the right timing." Hazel feigned worry. "But I'm scared. If something happens..." Riker laughed loudly. "That's why I'm here. I'll handle everything." He grew bolder. One evening, Hazel sent a recording from a bar. Riker was drunk, slurring, "You know, Lena used to say the same things as you." She was scared too, but then she got it. "Money is everything, Hazel. Money will give us a new life." I listened, blood boiling. He still spoke of Lena like a trophy. Then the fateful day arrived. Hazel invited Riker to dinner at an upscale Italian restaurant, the same place he had taken Lena. She got him drunk on red wine, pretending to be cheerful and playful. I sat in my car a block away, tracking via GPS, heart racing like a drum. Hazel texted, "It's starting." The recording that followed was a nightmare. Riker's voice slurred, intoxicated. You know, Lena and I had the perfect plan. Take out Dexter, my idiot brother, then grab the 2 million. Lena would play the grieving widow and we'd run off to Mexico, but that bitch was useless. She died before we could pull it off. Now it's you, Hazel. You're the key. A little accident, fall down the stairs or a car skids, no one will suspect a thing. Hazel pretended shock, voice trembling. You mean it? Riker roared with laughter, the sound echoing in the fancy Italian restaurant. Of course. I love you, but money matters more. Sign the policy and we'll be rich. Every word Riker said was captured, clear, undeniable, with timestamp, location, and unmistakable voice. Hazel left the restaurant soon after, claiming a headache, leaving Riker drunk and alone with the wine bill. She sent me the file at 11:47 p.m. with the message, "It's done. I'm safe." I sat in the car, hands shaking as I listened. This wasn't just a confession of infidelity. This was a confession of conspiracy to murder. I called Jake, the old detective friend, voice urgent. "Jake, I have proof." Recording of Riker admitting the whole plan to kill me with Lena, and now repeating it with Hazel. Jake was silent for a second, then grave. "Send the file now. I need to verify with the prosecutor. If it's solid, I'll get an arrest warrant." I sent the file, along with all prior evidence. The forged insurance policy in my name, anonymous emails from Lena's hard drive, fraud data from Miles, and Hazel's policy with Riker as beneficiary. The next morning, 7:12 a.m., Jake called. He's in custody. Riker was at home, still reeking of booze. He didn't resist, just asked, "Who tipped you off?" I didn't answer. All that mattered was that he was handcuffed, hauled away in wrinkled pajamas, face pale as he saw the arrest warrant for conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, and document forgery. The news of Riker's arrest spread like wildfire. The next morning, I turned on the kitchen TV while Emma and Lily were eating breakfast, and the local Denver news flashed. Insurance agent Riker Hale arrested for large-scale fraud. Footage showed him in handcuffs, his once crisp suit now wrinkled, face pale under the reporter's camera flashes. I switched it off quickly before the kids could see, but out there the world was in uproar. My phone buzzed nonstop. Miles called first. "Dex, you seen it? Crown Life is in chaos. My boss called an emergency meeting." Then Jake. 3 more victims from Wyoming and Utah reached out. They confirmed Riker tricked them into fake policies. I sat down, hands trembling. Everything Hazel and I had gathered was now part of a much bigger puzzle. Miles worked relentlessly. He sent me a lengthy email, a list of fraudulent records in Crown Life's system, over 20 cases from Colorado to Nevada. "Riker is the key link," Miles wrote. "He's connected to a transnational ring. They stage accidents, fake death certificates, and cash in on insurance." I read it and felt chills. The names, Sarah from Salt Lake City, fall downstairs, Maria from Cheyenne, car crash, were now clearly Riker's victims. The media exploded. The Denver Post ran a photo of Riker being escorted, headline, "Insurance Genius or Serial Killer." Public outrage surged. Riker had once been honored as Employee of the Year at an industry conference, beaming beside a golden trophy. Now that smile was replaced by eyes darting away under a police cap. The trial came 3 months later, public and swarming with hundreds of reporters. The Denver district courtroom was packed. Hazel and I sat in the witness row, hands clasped tightly. Riker entered in an orange jumpsuit, hair cropped short, stripped of his usual confidence. He kept his head down, avoiding my gaze. The prosecutor read the charges: financial fraud, document forgery, conspiracy to murder for profit, dozens of counts. Hazel testified first. Her voice shook but was clear. "Riker convinced me to sign a $1.5 million policy. He said it was for our future." She played the recording, Riker's slurred voice in the Italian restaurant. "Lena was useless, died before we could pull it off. Now it's you, Hazel." The courtroom fell dead silent, then erupted in murmurs. I took the stand next. I told everything. The forged policy in my name, the anonymous emails, the plan to kill me for $2 million. "He's my brother," I said, voice choking, "but he was willing to murder me for money." Riker looked up for a second, eyes flashing hatred, then dropped his head. The jury deliberated for just 3 hours. "Guilty," the foreman announced. 25 years imprisonment, forfeiture of all illicit assets. The gavel struck, echoing. Reporters rushed out, flashes popping nonstop. Hazel hugged me, sobbing. I closed my eyes, not triumphant, just empty. Outside the courthouse, a light Denver rain fell. I stood under the overhang, watching the crowd disperse. Justice had been served, but I no longer had a family. My parents didn't show up. Riker was locked away. Lena was gone. Only Emma and Lily remained, the reason I kept going. Miles clapped my shoulder. "You did it, Dex." I nodded, but inside I knew. This wound would never heal. Riker paid the price, but I had lost everything. The trial ended, and I drove home along the familiar Denver road, light rain still falling, blurring the windshield. The car radio played the news. Riker Hale, 31, sentenced to 25 years for insurance fraud and conspiracy to murder. The announcer's voice was steady, but every word cut like a knife into my heart. The next morning, the story was everywhere. I opened the front door to find reporters crowding the porch. Camera flashes popped relentlessly, microphones thrust in my face. "Mr. Hale, any comment on your brother's sentence? Did you know about the fraud ring beforehand?" I slammed the door, drew the curtains, but the knocking persisted. My phone rang nonstop, old friends, co-workers, even strangers. I turned it off, slumped to the floor, and clutched my head. My family had become the center of public scrutiny. On the TV screen, clear footage showed my parents standing in front of the old wooden house. A CUSA reporter shoved a microphone at them, camera lights highlighting the weary lines on my father's face. He tried to keep his voice steady, but it trembled. "Riker is just a victim. He got pulled into a fraud ring. The boy is good. He only wanted to help the family." My mother stood beside him, eyes red, voice choking. "It was Dexter who stirred up old dirt and tore this family apart. If he had kept quiet, Riker wouldn't be in prison." I froze in front of the screen. They were blaming me. Not a word of remorse. Not an apology for knowing about Riker and Lena all along. Just defense. Just denial. I turned off the TV, but the image burned into my mind. I drove to my parents' house that afternoon, the only meeting after the trial. The house was the same. The scent of baking wafting from the kitchen, classical music on the radio. But the atmosphere was colder than ice. My parents sat in the living room, not inviting me to sit. I stood there, fists clenched, and began. "I need to talk. About Riker, about what you knew." My father cut me off. "Enough, Dexter. If you hadn't dug up the past, your brother wouldn't be in jail. You're the eldest. Why can't you think of the family?" My mother was colder, voice sharp as a blade. "You've shamed us in front of everyone. Reporters call all day. Are you satisfied now?" I tried to explain. "Riker planned to kill me. He and Lena plotted it 3 years ago. You knew and stayed silent." But my words were drowned out. My father stood, pointing at the door. "Leave. Don't come back if all you bring is pain." The feeling of betrayal a second time, this time by my own parents, crushed me. My entire childhood had been filled with favoritism and injustice, but I never imagined it would last this long. No matter how hard I tried, they always chose to believe and protect Riker, even when his guilt was undeniable. I realized that in this family, blood ties were just a facade. They didn't want the truth. They wanted a scapegoat to preserve their perfect image. I left the house in silence, saying nothing more. My car sped down the highway, tears blurring the glass. I understood there was nothing left to hold on to. Everything was shattered beyond repair. The next morning, I wrote a handwritten letter, short and clear. "Mom and Dad, I've spent my whole life trying to be loved like Riker, but maybe that was never meant for me. From today, I step out of my role in this family. Pretend I never existed. It will probably make things easier for everyone. I will live, not to be forgiven, but to find peace. Dexter." I mailed the letter, changed my phone number, and deleted all contacts. The decision was painful but necessary, to escape that rotting past. That night I held my 2 daughters as they slept, whispering, "Daddy will protect you. Forever." Emma snuggled against my chest, breathing steadily. Lily fidgeted, her tiny hand clutching my index finger as if afraid to let go and lose me. I lay there, eyes wide in the darkness, listening to the wall clock tick. That night, for the first time in months, I didn't dream of Riker, didn't see Lena, didn't see the intimate photos or the forged policy. There was only the sound of the children's breathing, the one pure thing left amid the wreckage of my life. Time passed slowly, like a quiet stream washing away layers of mud. The case closed. Riker's file was sealed, the 25-year sentence hanging over him like a sword. The media moved on. Yesterday's screaming headlines now lay silent in recycling bins. I returned to the warehouse, counting crates again, checking invoices, but each number now carried new meaning. They were the future for Emma and Lily. I worked overtime, saved every penny just to ensure the kids would never want. Hazel became a regular fixture, part of our new rhythm. She came by every Saturday afternoon carrying a small lunchbox wrapped in a checkered cloth. "Lena's old recipe," she'd say, setting it on the kitchen table. Sandwiches, fried eggs, a few ripe tomatoes, the familiar taste aching in its comfort. Emma and Lily squealed, rushing to hug her legs. "Aunt Hazel, did you bring candy?" Hazel smiled, pulling 2 small chocolate bars from her pocket, eyes sparkling. I stood in the kitchen doorway, watching quietly, a warmth seeping through the cracks in my heart. At first, we only talked about the pain. Hazel sat on the sofa, cradling a mug of hot tea, recounting nights she lay awake fearing a call from Riker in prison. "I still hear his voice," she whispered, "calling me Lena." I nodded, sharing how I'd jolt awake, thinking I heard Riker laughing in the house. We didn't cry. Tears were spent, just sat in silence, sharing loneliness. Gradually, the conversations lightened. Hazel spoke of her and Lena's childhood. Identical twins climbing trees, fighting over dolls, making up with a shared popsicle. I told of Emma learning to ride a bike, Lily drawing a Daddy the Superhero picture for my birthday. Laughter began to creep into the house, small but real. Hazel stayed longer, helping bathe the kids, singing them to sleep with the soft lullabies Lena once sang. I realized Hazel was the only one who stayed. No judgment, no demands, just patient and gentle, as if she understood every wound inside me. 3 months after the sentencing, I received a letter from the Colorado State Penitentiary. The envelope was pre-printed. Visitation request, inmate 47892, Riker Hale. The only handwritten line, "Big brother, one last talk. Riker." I read it over and over, crumpling the paper in my fist. Hazel sat beside me, quietly making coffee. "Will you go?" she asked, voice soft but firm. I nodded. Not for forgiveness, but to close the chapter, to look him in the eye one final time and ensure that ghosts no longer haunted my mind. The visitation day was gray-skied in Denver, cold wind whistling through the barbed wire fence. Hazel and I sat in the stark visiting room, cold metal table, bulletproof glass between us. Riker was led in, his orange jumpsuit darker than his skin, hair buzzed short, but that smile, unchanged, confident, sneering as if he were on vacation. He sat, picked up the receiver, voice flat. "Long time no see, big brother, and Hazel too." I didn't answer immediately. I just looked at him. The little brother my parents always defended, the one I always yielded to, the one who slept with my wife and plotted my murder. "What do you want?" I asked, voice low as stone. Riker shrugged, smirking. "Just wanted to see how you're doing after putting me in here and maybe stealing your little brother's girlfriend too. Hazel, you look good. Boyfriend in prison and you don't shed a tear, don't even visit?" Hazel gripped my hand under the table, but her voice was ice. "I came to make sure you never get out." Riker laughed loudly, the sound echoing in the empty room. "Still mad, huh?" Lena was mad too, before she died. "But you know what, Dexter? You take life too seriously. It's a game. You lost because you don't know how to play. I leaned toward the glass, voice low and sharp. You planned murders. You scammed women. You betrayed family. That's your game? Riker's lip curled, eyes flashing disdain. Family? You're not my family. You put me in prison and now you accuse me of betraying family? The betrayer isn't me. It's you. Mom and Dad knew everything. That's why they always loved me more. You were jealous, so you ruined me. Blood rushed to my head, but Hazel squeezed my hand. Don't let him pull you down. I breathed deep. You feel no remorse, do you? Riker leaned back, arms crossed. Remorse? For what? That Lena died before the plan worked? That Hazel wasn't dumb enough to die, or that you got lucky and lived? He laughed, a dry rasp. I only regret not doing it sooner. You've been a burden since we were kids, Dexter, always. Not one apology, not a tear, not a shred of regret. Just cold self-satisfaction. The result of being spoiled too long, protected too much, taught he was always right. I stood, set the receiver down. Goodbye, Riker. This is the last time. He still grinned, waving through the glass. Tell Mom and Dad hi. Tell them you're the hero brother. Outside the prison, cold wind slapped my face. Hazel hugged me, saying nothing. I looked at the gray sky, then at her, the only one still by my side. He hasn't changed, I whispered, and you don't need to change because of him, Hazel replied. You chose the right path. Riker chose prison, that's the end. I nodded. For the first time, the weight felt lighter. Riker felt no remorse, but I had let go. I no longer had a brother. I only had family, Emma, Lily, and Hazel. And that was enough. One July afternoon, I took everyone to Chatfield Lake. Golden sunlight blazed, the water sparkling like silver. Emma and Lily ran across the grass, shrieking with laughter as Hazel taught them to fly a kite. I sat on the picnic blanket, watching Hazel chase the kite, hair streaming in the wind, smile radiant. In that moment, my heart twinged, not with pain, but with a strange, warm feeling. I realized my feelings for Hazel had grown beyond kinship. It wasn't love at first sight, but a quiet undercurrent flowing through the darkest months, nourishing me without my noticing. I hesitated for a long time. Many nights I stood before the mirror, asking if I had the right to start again. Lena was dead, Riker in prison, my parents estranged. I had nothing but empty hands and 2 children. But Hazel, she deserved someone better than a broken man like me. I feared rejecting her would hurt her. Accepting would hurt me. Finally, I chose a quiet evening after the kids were asleep. I called Hazel to the back porch. The moon hung low, breeze cool. Hazel, I began, voice rough. I don't know how to say this, but I've realized I need you. Not to replace Lena, not to fill a void. I want to build a new future with you, for me, for you, for Emma and Lily. Will you want that? Hazel looked at me, eyes shining. She said nothing, just smiled, trusting, warm. Then she nodded, gently placing her hand in mine. No promises spoken, just eyes that said everything. A few months later, I sold the old house. The realtor was surprised when I refused to haggle. I just wanted out fast. That house held too many memories. Lena's laughter, my tears, Riker calling Big Brother. I didn't want Emma and Lily growing up among ghosts. We moved to a small coastal town in Oregon, blue sea, white sand, where no one knew our names. The first morning in our new home, I opened the window. Sunlight poured in, carrying the scent of sea salt and the crash of waves. Emma and Lily ran around the yard, laughing wildly as Hazel taught them to build sandcastles. I stood there, fingers laced with Hazel's, feeling true peace. The past was closed, not erased, but no longer imprisoning me. A new family was beginning, from the shards, from new love, from hope. I took a deep breath, letting the ocean breeze fill my lungs, sweeping away the last dust of Denver lingering in my memory. This small seaside house, white walls, red-tiled roof, green-painted wooden windows, was no mansion, but big enough to hold the laughter of 4 people. Hazel turned to me, smiling. See? The sea always forgives. I nodded, squeezing her hand gently. Forgiveness, something I never thought I'd offer anyone, had become my compass. The message I want to leave you with after my story: the truth always finds its way. I once believed silence protected family. I stayed silent when my parents defended Riker, when Lena came home late, when the insurance policy appeared. But silence only feeds darkness. Truth, however painful, is the only light that can banish it. When I opened Riker's forgotten phone, when I searched Lena's laptop, when I confronted my parents, each confrontation freed a part of me. You may fear the truth, but never run from it. It will find you one way or another. Embrace it, even if it shatters your heart. Because only when you're shattered can you rebuild, stronger, truer. The lesson I learned: family is not blood, it is choice. My biological parents chose Riker. Riker chose money. Lena chose lies. I chose Emma, Lily, and Hazel. Family isn't where you're born, it's where you choose to stay. Hazel had no obligation to remain after everything. She could have walked away like the others. But she chose to stay, to wipe my tears, to sing the children to sleep, to hold my hand when I trembled. Look around you. Who stays when you've lost everything? Who still smiles when you have only tears? That is family. Don't cling to those who love you only when you're whole. Cherish those who love you even when you're broken. I once believed love comes only once. Lena was my first and last, I swore it. But Hazel taught me love is not a finite resource. It can die, then be reborn in a different form. Not Lena 2.0, not a replacement, but Hazel with her own scars, her own pain, and a heart generous enough to embrace a shattered man. If you've lost faith in love, look at those who remain beside you. They don't come to fill a void. They come to build a new home. Open your heart. Believe again. Because true love isn't afraid of cracks. It knows how to fill them with light. You have the right to grieve. You have the right to cry. But don't let that pain become the house you live in forever. Move out. Repaint the walls. Open the windows to let the sun in. The future waits for no one. It only opens to those brave enough to step forward.